How's it going, guys? I'm 𝐊𝐄𝐄, and today we're going to talk about 10 different iPhone features that are really cool, but a little bit hidden, so you might not have known about them before. Some of them you may have heard me mention from time to time, but a couple of these are brand new, so stick around. Starting off with number 1, did you know that you can actually put someone on hold with your phone? Now, it doesn't play any elevator music or anything, but it will allow you to make another phone call, for example, while this other person is on hold, and it is different from the mute button, which will still allow you to hear them and just mutes yourself. When it's on hold, you're muted and they are muted. Now, to activate this hold feature, when you're in a call, you simply hold down the mute button, and eventually, after a couple seconds, it'll switch to say on hold, and then now that person can't hear you and you can't hear them. And fortunately, there's not really any way to play any music or anything, so it's not like the other person will know whether they're on hold or not, but it's still a cool little feature. All right, moving on to number 2, we have a little feature in the camera app that you may have not ever seen before, and that is that when you have the grid mode enabled on the camera and you point the phone directly down, like to take a picture of a document or something like that, it will actually show you a little couple crosshairs that you can line up to know that the phone is now perfectly level with the ground. So to enable this, you go into the settings and then go to camera and toggle on the grid option. And now you'll see this 3x3 grid appear in the camera app, which can actually help you line up cool shots and stuff like that. But now also when you're pointing the camera directly down, it will simply appear, which is gonna be really helpful if you're trying to take a picture of a document or something like that. It won't be all distorted. Next up, number 3, this is something you might not have known was possible in the widgets menu, which is the one to the left of the home screen when you swipe over. And basically that little search bar can do a few more things than you may have realized, including acting as a super smart calculator. So you can type in, of course, simple calculations like 5 plus 5, and it'll give you the answer, but it's probably faster to just put in the calculator at that point. But you can also type in things like 1 tablespoon to cups or whatever, or kilometers to miles, and it'll calculate all these other things for you. Now, it might be faster at that point to just ask Siri instead of trying to type it out really fast, but if you're in a meeting or somewhere where you can't talk out loud and you still need to know this conversion, it's basically the equivalent of going onto Google and typing it in. It'll give you the same result with the same calculation of the units. All right, up next, number 4, we're gonna actually group a bunch of different ones into this one because they're kind of related, so you're kind of getting a bonus here. So these are all gonna be different extra 3D touch features in the control center. So you might not have realized that when you swipe into the control center, you can obviously click on each of these little shortcuts to activate the shortcut, but if you 3D touch on almost all of these, you're gonna get extra options that you didn't get before that will allow you to more finely control what you want to do with that command. For example, if you 3D touch onto the timer shortcut, you can then swipe up and down to quickly adjust how long you want the timer to be, which is going to be probably a little bit faster than what it would be normally. If you 3D touch onto the flashlight shortcut, you'll also be able to adjust the brightness of the flashlight by swiping up and down instead of just having it on full brightness or not. If you 3D touch onto the Do Not Disturb shortcut, you'll have several different options for when you want the Do Not Disturb mode to expire. For example, you can have it just for 1 hour, which I find really useful in case I just want to have it Do Not Disturb for a short amount of time and then not forget to turn it off. You can also have it for until this evening. You can have it until you leave a specific location. A lot of options here. If you 3D touch onto the brightness bar, a couple new options will appear at the bottom for turning on and off night shift, as well as turning on and off the true tone mode if you want to quickly toggle those. And for the calculator shortcut, if you 3D touch that, it'll allow you to copy the most recent calculation result, and then you can paste it wherever you want. And finally, 3D touching the camera shortcut will allow you to have an option to go directly to portrait mode, scanning a QR code, taking a video, or a selfie. Although these are the same options you would get as if you were 3D touching the icon on the home screen, so it might not be really faster than that. Of course, there are several other options for shortcuts you can add to the control center, so these are not all of the ones. So if you have some that I didn't mention here, you can kind of go through these and experiment and see what other ones you might find. All right, continuing on to number 5. This one you might not have known about in regards to the keyboard. And this will allow you to actually use a right-handed or left-handed keyboard. So if you're typing with just one hand, instead of trying to reach all the way across the screen, this will make it easier. So to activate this, when you have the keyboard open, you can long press onto either the emoji icon or the globe icon, depending on which appears, and then you'll have the option to click on the left or right icon for the keyboard, and then it will actually move the keyboard compactly onto one side or the other, so now it's easier to reach all the buttons on it. If you want to undo this, you simply click on the little arrow and it'll go back to normal. And this one is definitely going to be useful if you have one of the bigger iPhones. All right, number 6, this is a really quick one, but definitely super useful, and that is the ability to mute individual conversations in iMessage. So to do this, you simply bring up the different iMessage conversations, and if you swipe to the left of them, you'll get a few options, including the ability to mute it. That way, if you're getting like a group conversation where people are just talking their heads off and you're tired of getting all the notifications, you can just mute it, and then you'll still get it showing a little bubble there that shows you there's new text there, but it won't actually come through with a whole notification and buzz your phone and everything like that. All right, up next, we have another cool one with the keyboard, and it allows you to actually use the keyboard like a trackpad to move the cursor around. So if you want to move the cursor in between a word to correct it or something like that, what you can do is actually 3D press into the keyboard and then start moving your thumb around or whatever finger you're using, and then it will allow you to simply move your finger around to control exactly where that cursor goes instead of trying to press on the word and get it directly in there and it doesn't go where you want. Sometimes this can be a lot easier and you might not have known about it before. All right, we still got a few more. So number 8 is the ability to actually change the animations the iPhone uses using an accessibility feature called Reduce Motion. To get to this, you go to the settings and then General, Accessibility, and then look for Reduce Motion, where you can toggle this on and off. And what this will do is actually change the animations where windows zoom in and out or kind of get swiped around to more like a fade animation. And this can be useful for a number of different situations. Some people, for example, just get eye strain for whatever reason, looking at the different animations. For example, the parallax feature where it kind of moves the background while you're swiping on the home screen. That might annoy some people. This will disable that. And also you'll notice when you're opening and closing apps, it will now fade them in and out instead of having them kind of zoom in and out. Or you might find that you just prefer the way this animation looks than the other one. Now, me personally, I don't use this because even though the fade animation looks kind of cool, I find that when you're doing the app switcher where you swipe up from the bottom, it does not look as smooth. Instead of kind of smoothly zooming out and now showing the apps, it fades it kind of weird. So I personally don't like it, but again, you might like it better. All right, now we got 2 more, and both of these have to do with Safari. And the first one, number 9, is actually 2 different ways to search a web page for a specific word. The first way is whenever you're on any web page, if you go to the search bar or the URL bar and start typing something in, it'll of course give you suggestions, but at the bottom you'll also see a header that says find in page, and when you press on that, it will do a search in the page for that word that you typed in. Another way you can search the page is by pressing that little box up arrow icon on the bottom of the web page, and then click on the Find on Page icon. It's a little magnifying glass, and you might have to swipe over to do this, but you can actually drag this shortcut to be closer or on the main thing that pops up. And then again, it'll give you a little box where you can type in a word and find it on the page. And finally, number 10, this one you might not have known was possible, and that is you can actually get the desktop version of any website, even though you're on mobile, by simply long pressing onto the refresh button at the top of the Safari page, and then you'll have the option now to request desktop website. So if you're on some website and for whatever reason the mobile version is not working correctly, or it doesn't have a link that you know is there on the desktop site and you need to access it, now you can just do it. And you know, it's not going to look as good. You're going to have to zoom in and stuff like that, but at least it'll work. Now, if you have any other suggestions for cool tips that I did not mention, be sure to let us know down in the comments section, and also definitely check down there for other suggestions people have made that I did not mention. If you want to keep watching, I'll put some links right here, maybe some other cool features for iPhone and Android or whatever, and you can just click on those. And if you want to subscribe, I make a couple new videos a week, so it should be worth it. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a good one.